Hello, I'm Diane Trees. Imagine a world where antibiotics don't work, superbugs dominate, and many of the medical procedures we know today would not be possible. Dr. Salvador Almagro Moreno, an assistant professor at the Burnett School of Biomedical Sciences, studies the emergence and evolution of bacteria that includes human pathogens. Dr. Moreno, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Antibiotics were discovered late 20s, early 30s. How big a deal was that? What impact did that have?
I think that the three biggest events in medicine in general, when it comes to saving lives, had to do with dealing with bacteria, such as hygiene, surgeon washing their hands before operating on you, vaccination afterwards, and third, antibiotics, because no matter how many treatments we have against other diseases like cancer, etc., back in the days, the child mortality rate was huge, and just simple things as vaccination or antibiotics saved millions, tens of millions of lives.
What does drug resistant mean?
It means that a bacterium has acquired the ability to tolerate, for a bacterium to avoid being killed by an antibiotic. So a bacterium that's resistant to an antibiotic has found a way or another to not be harmed by our antibiotics.
Is this a new phenomenon, or is this part of just the natural life cycle of organisms?
That's a really good question, because it comes back down to the biology of the microorganisms. Antibiotics were discovered from other microorganisms. So bacteria attacked other bacteria because they compete against the same resources. So the way they kill each other is through the production of antibiotics. So they have evolved as a kind of like a war to defend themselves against the antibiotics that other organisms produce. So it's a natural thing that bacteria will evolve to defend themselves against antibiotics. Yeah.
So not just necessarily something that was recently starting. With that evolution, do we understand how bacteria function? Do we know the mechanisms and how this resistance comes about? Do we know that, or is that still part of the things you're doing with research?
We tend to see the world from an anthropocentric point of view. Because of culture and religion, we think everything around that surrounds us exists for us. So we're starting to realize that the antibiotic resistance is not something that we are, of course we are fostering it, but that existed before. So one common misconception is to think that the bacterium will develop the resistance, and the bacteria already have the resistance. We select for the ones that are resistant. So we cannot create the genes out of nowhere to make a bacterium resistant to antibiotics. We just, in a population of, let's say, 1 billion cells, 1 or 2 of them will have the resistance. And by killing the rest, we just let those ones proliferate. So then we have an infection that's completely antibiotic resistant.
So it's survival of the fittest then, isn't it?
Good old biology 101.
Wow.
But it takes us always, having to accept that we're not the center of the universe. Humans, we have a hard time. So it takes a lot longer than it should for us to realize of these things.
Well, how would you define a superbug?
A superbug would be a bacterium that's resistant to most of the antibiotics we can give to a patient, or to the cocktails of antibiotics that we can give to a patient, because we can obviously not throw 150 different antibiotics, because we'll kill the bug, but we'll also kill the patient.
Right.
And so that's a superbug. It's basically a bacterium that we don't know what to do to kill them without harming the patient.
Right.
Because to kill them we can do it, but the patient, that's a big problem. Yeah.
Now, when they refer to the superbugs, is that bacterium and not a virus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because antibiotics only affect bacteria. If you get a cold, antibiotics will do you nothing, because you probably got the cold because of the flu virus.
Right.
So we have different treatments for those. Yeah.
Now, the World Health Organization actually put out the first ever list of 12 superbugs. What do you think is the biggest threat? And I know this is your opinion. What do you think is the biggest threat for the United States?
I think it's species-wise or in general. Species, we never know. I think that the biggest threat is that we don't know what we don't know. So we can think, okay, this specific species is now giving us big trouble, but the other ones are evolving.
Right.
So we never know how they're going to come about, the means to avoid the way we target them. I think that is my biggest concern as someone that studies the emergence of pathogens. I study how something that's harmless becomes harmful, and we are on a very early stages to understand what we don't understand at all, because there might be something somewhere, anywhere, that might harbor some traits that we can select for by adding them antibiotics and have a new multi-resistant bacterium.
That's very interesting, that perspective, because you can't really prepare then. It's all unknown, and so you can't prioritize either. So you just have to sort of look, watch, and do the best you can to keep up as the evolution occurs.
Yes, but we can always, like for instance, you cannot avoid a car accident, but if you've had 10 shots of tequila, you have a much higher chance of having the same thing as if it's like if there's a storm and you're driving at 85,
Right.
you increase the likelihood.
Yeah.
So what we can do is monitor and predict. Like for instance, we just did a study which we published recently, where we found that a lot of the traits that we consider virulent, that is, things that allow the bacterium to colonize us and harm us, are present in environmental populations. Bacteria that live in the ocean and they just don't even know that you exist. Because of their lifestyle, they are able to tolerate, like as I said, if you deal with actinomyces and you're a bacterium, that genus is going to try to attack you constantly. So now we're trying to look at that more biological, ecological, how can we understand where they live so that we can predict which subgroup can eventually emerge to harm us.
How about the antibiotics then? How does that factor into, does it accelerate the resistance?
It selects for the cells that have the resistance already. So bacteria, one thing that makes them really interesting is that they are machines of evolution. Because unlike us, that we manage to modify a little bit the environment that surrounds us, bacteria cannot modify the environment that easily because they're unicellular. So we can keep our heat. For instance, we are what we call homeotherms. Bacteria cannot do that, because there is one single little cell that's 1.5 micrometers, so something very tiny. So what they do is that, because they're clonal, they taste, like you have 1 billion cells, each of them trying different things.
Right.
This one acquires this gene, this one changes the expression of other gene. So in a population, there will always be some cells that have the ability to tolerate some antibiotic, because 300 years ago, they landed on a spot with a bunch of other bacteria that were gonna kill them.
Right.
So the likelihood of some cells in a population to have the ability to tolerate certain doses of antibiotics, it's pretty high. And we tend to overlook and underestimate that. Now we're starting to realize that that's a major issue.
And I know that there are a lot of countries around the world that have very little regulation on prescribing antibiotics, which again, I would think accelerate the chances of that evolution occurring.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not so much about the overprescription of it, which is not good anyway. It's the inability to follow what the doctor tells you, what really can create the danger. The reason being is when you get an infection and the doctor tells you take every single pill in this bottle, it's not just that they have nothing better to do than to give you an order. It's just that they want to make sure that you wipe out as much of the population as possible, so that you prevent a few remnant organisms to overtake. And just if you have only a few cells, let's say 2 or 3 cells, that even though they're antibiotic resistant, maybe your actual body can take care of it, because it's only 2 or 3 cells, your immune system can take care of it. If you stop taking antibiotics before your immune system can take care of a few of them, then those that are resistant are going to proliferate again. So your infection will be exclusively cells that are resistant to that antibiotic. So over-the-counter creates that type of issues.
Now, Dr. Moreno, are we developing new antibiotics to try to keep up with this natural cycle of life?
Yeah, absolutely. It gets tricky because it's really easy to find an antibiotic in the lab, because in a test tube I can throw some compound and the bacteria will die. I can also throw bleach, which is not which I cannot give to a patient.
No.
So it's really easy to say, hey, yes, we're trying to develop new antibiotics. The difficulty here is that not only it has to be relatively harmless to the patient, but it has to be as harmful as possible to the bacterium. And now 1/3 requirement that we're looking into is that they will not develop resistance quickly.
You consider us that we've reached a crisis mode in this?
We still have a chance, because I think that I'm cynically optimistic, so I assume that we will not start well, and then we'll figure a way to solve it. So cynical, we overdose with antibiotics and not finish the doses that we are. But I think that we are starting to be very, very, very serious about you should definitely take every single pill.
Right.
And so the more we get stringent on
Yes.
that, the same as, it wasn't that long ago, like 80 years ago, that some illegal substances nowadays were prescribed as, something to
Yeah.
help you fall asleep,
Yes.
or something to help you pay more attention.
Right.
In the last 50 years, we have not seen antibiotics as a source of selection for antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Now that we see it that way, I think we're acting upon it.
Well, and very good advice to follow the absolute directions for this.
Yes.
Great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.